Imagine someone handed you the keys to the newest and fastest brand new Corvette, ZR1X. With a combined 1,250 horsepower, it can accelerate from 0 to 60 in just 1.68 seconds. This makes it the fastest American production car ever built. It's beautiful, powerful, and built to move. But then you discover something missing: the steering wheel. As absurd as that might sound, suddenly all that power is going nowhere. Freedom works the same way. Responsibility is the steering wheel of freedom. Without it, we're going nowhere good. In our society, we celebrate freedom, but we rarely talk about real responsibility. Freedom and responsibility have always traveled together. They are two sides of the same priceless gift. In fact, responsibility is what turns the wheels of freedom into opportunity. Today, we'll discover why taking responsibility not for everything that happens to us, but for how we respond, might be the single greatest decision we ever make. Welcome to the From Truth to Freedom podcast. I'm Tony Holden. Every life has direction, but what is that direction? You didn't arrive here where you are today by accident. Thousands of decisions, starts and stops and turns, both large and small, have quietly shaped your life. Many people spend years blaming their parents, their boss, their government, their spouse, the economy, their education, or the lack thereof. Some of those things absolutely do influence us, but none of them completely define us. The most beautiful, most powerful words in the English language may simply be, I choose. Why? Because every choice carries with it both responsibility and accountability. Responsibility is accepting ownership. Accountability is accepting the consequences. Without one, the other eventually leads to disappointment. We all appreciate the freedom to choose, don't we? But maturity comes when we accept the results of those choices. That's true in our families, it's true in our finances, in our careers, in our health, and certainly in our relationship with God. Throughout history, the people who changed the world weren't those who waited for perfect circumstances. They are the ones who accept responsibility for circumstances they have. Theodore Roosevelt was one of those people. Good old Teddy Roosevelt. As a child, Theodore Roosevelt was painfully sick, severe asthma, and weak lungs. Doctors believed he would always have a limited life. His father told him something that changed everything. You have the mind, but you do not have the body. You must build the body. So young Theodore accepted responsibility. He exercised relentlessly, lifted weights, boxed, hunted, rode horses, eventually became one of America's toughest presidents. The lesson? He couldn't control the body that he was born with. He could control what he did with it. Life often gives us circumstances. Responsibility determines what we build with our circumstances. Freedom gives us opportunity. Responsibility gives us direction. Accountability gives us growth. That's worth repeating. Freedom gives us opportunity. Responsibility gives us direction. Accountability gives us growth. Victim thinking versus victory thinking. Victim thinking asked, "Why did this happen to me?" Victory thinking asks, "What can I do next?" Victim thinking gives away power. Victory thinking creates power. Responsibility doesn't ignore challenges. It simply refuses to surrender the future. Every time that a hurricane, a tornado, a flood, or wildfires strike, ordinary Americans show up to help. Not because government requires it, but because responsibility always has been a virtue and one of Americans' greatest strengths. Booker T. Washington, one of my favorite examples of individual responsibility, is Booker T. Washington. He was born into slavery. He had no wealth, no formal education, no political influence. Yet he became one of America's greatest educators. He founded Tuskegee Institute in 1881, educated thousands, changed generations. His famous principle: don't spend your life complaining about where you start. Invest your life in becoming useful. Responsibility created opportunity. History is full of people who refuse to let difficult beginnings determine difficult endings. A contemporary illustration of this: imagine two employees at a growth tech company began the same job. Both earned the same salary. 5 years later, one has earned promotions, built trust, learned new skills, started investing. The other still complains every Monday, and most of the other days as well. Shows up late, blames the management for everything that's wrong for them, never improves. Same opportunity, different choices, different future. Responsibility compounds, just like interest on money. Choices always have consequences. In the Bible, Galatians chapter 6, verse 7, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." Every day we're planting seeds, words, habits, attitude, character, relationships, health, finances. These are all seeds. No farmer plants soybeans and expects wheat. Life works the same way. Think about Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest examples of perseverance. He lost multiple elections, experienced multiple business failures, had personal heartbreak, depression, and repeated setbacks. Many people know his victories. Few people remember how many defeats came first. He kept accepting responsibility for the next step instead of allowing failure to become his identity. Eventually, he became president, preserved the Union, and freed millions. History remembers perseverance far more than failure. On a personal note, years ago when Hurricane Hugo hit the South, I was attending a professional speakers symposium in High Point, North Carolina. The next day, when I was able to make it home through all of the traffic rerouting, I finally found my family safe and my neighbors clearing trees that had fallen across my driveway. My heart swelled with gratitude. They had already begun helping me ever before I arrived home. This wasn't required, but they took the responsibility to help me. Then, together with many of my neighbors, church, and community volunteers, we took a trip to Charleston, South Carolina, loaded with chainsaws, blankets, water, food supplies, and medical equipment to help those who had been subjected to the devastation that storm created. Again, this was not a requirement for us, but what we considered to be our civic responsibility to help our fellow citizens who had been so unfortunate. After several days of hard labor, we were exhausted and dirty and smelled malodorous, I'm sure. Yet We didn't become discouraged. We had gone there to help others. Yet somehow we came home changed and blessed ourselves. Freedom gives us opportunity. Responsibility tells us what to do, and accountability reminds us that our choices do matter. Many times they matter to those whom we never know of. Accountability grows naturally whenever genuine love and commitment exist. Think about a father. He doesn't care for his wife and children simply because it's his responsibility. He does it because he loves them. Love gives responsibility its purpose. Responsibility gives love its action. Responsibility does create an opportunity. Most opportunities don't begin with talent. They begin with hope and trust. People trust responsible people. Think about it. Businesses promote responsible people. Families rely on responsible people. Communities follow responsible people. And God entrusts a greater thing to responsible people. The Bible teaches a principle that applies in every area of life. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall much be required. Luke 12:48. The more opportunities we receive, the more influence we have. The more resources we're entrusted with, the greater our responsibility becomes. God doesn't give blessings merely for our comfort and benefit. He gives them so we can become faithful stewards and be a blessing to others. Today's Freedom Minute. Here's an interesting piece of American history. The word responsibility doesn't appear anywhere in the U.S. Constitution. But the Constitution outlines various duties and obligations that imply a sense of responsibility for both the government and its citizens. The founders didn't omit it because it wasn't important. They omitted it because it was assumed. They believed that free people would first learn to govern themselves. As John Adams famously observed, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It's wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Freedom has never depended only on good laws. It has always depended on responsible citizens. That's today's Freedom Minute. Here's a challenge for you as listeners. This week, I encourage you to take responsibility for one area that you've been postponing. Make the phone call. Repair the relationship. Start the budget. Apply for the job. Read the book. Exercise today. Don't wait until tomorrow. Choose one responsibility and own it before this day is over. I encourage you to do that. You'll be glad you did, because every meaningful life changes, one responsible decision at a time. Freedom is never merely the absence of restraint. Freedom is the opportunity to become the person God created you to be. Responsibility is the bridge between freedom and the life God intends us to live. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. I'd love to hear from you. How do you think responsibility plays a key role in our freedom? Feel free to send me an email or leave a comment. If you found value in today's conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with someone who might benefit from it. And please join me next time for another episode of From Truth to Freedom. I'm Tony Holden. Thanks for listening, and above all, discover truth, live in freedom, thrive in life.